Now this, I believe, is the concept art, and then her sitting in the
Yes.
waiting room. I mean, the waiting room also is another iconic
Yes.
sort of
And
look.
we did the same, went to the same lengths with that. And that was, part of the problem for my decorating team, for David and all the guys and girls there, it was just nothing, everything that in that set particularly was sort of thrift story tat
Right.
of the best kind, but it was that. It was, not stuff you're just going to find lying around. And you couldn't, but it had to be the same. So it was all model made and it was all drawn from studying the pictures and trying to fathom out the proportions of things and how, because that was a struggle for the set deck team particularly because they couldn't find anything that was the same. I mean, funny enough, the grey chair, the sort of with a weird angled back,
Right.
David found a chair like it on eBay, but even that wasn't the same, and it was like 10 quid. So we got it in and just sort of hacked it to bits and reupholstered it and cut the angles in. But it had the kind of had the same vibe, but nothing was the same. The only problem we did have was the paintings on the walls. And this is such a niche problem for set deck and art department, was the original when the original film was done, no one really cared about clearance.
Right.
Um, so
Because why
no one
not?
had, no, well, it wasn't a thing. So no one had the
Right.
first idea who painted those pictures, where they'd come from, and certainly nobody had the time to, try and figure out who they were. I mean, we tried, but no one knew where they'd come from, and nobody, they probably picked them up in a whatever. No one knew the story of it. So and boringly and bizarrely, we couldn't copy them. So so we had to sort of do paintings in the style of, which was fine in the end, but it was sort
No,
of annoying that we'd gone to such lengths to make everything else exactly the same and we couldn't copy the artwork. But
but it's
but
all
that's what we
so
do.
collectively together. That
Yeah.
doesn't, yeah. Like I
No, no.
our
It was,
pictures.
it was just one of those annoyances for me. I think in the end nobody else really noticed,
Sorry.
but it was just
There's that up top. Now I moved our pictures. There, that chair I believe you're talking about.
yes, yeah, yeah, it was a strong. Well, all the lamps I think particularly were. Well, we had a potter come in and they were all
Your
proper hand work.
painting is amazing too. I mean, the textures on the walls, and I mean, I'm gonna guess that this floor is painted. It's not like
Well,
it.
so there's
Is
two
it?
stories. So the texture on the wall was a particular one because obviously that was quite prevalent in the first film, and we had to try and figure out how they'd done it because it's weird. The more you study it, the more texture you find in it, and the more
Well, like this.
detail.
Oops.
Yeah, and the sort of this weird sort of pot marks. There you go.
Yeah.
And it took the plasterers a long time to get to a method of doing it, which I mean, I don't know how they did it originally, and I don't think, I mean, there might be somebody out there that could put their hand up and go, I did it, and it was like this, but we didn't have them there. But in the end, it was like they had to put a really wet plaster on it, and then the team literally had bags of sand, and they were throwing handfuls of sand at it in like small handfuls, big handfuls, little bits, just
Oh,
skimming it in, and then you'd have to let the whole thing dry. Then they came through with compressed air and blew all the sand out of all the pot
oh
marks
wow.
to leave this sort of texture. And then they had to go back in again and sort of finish it so that, had a sort of consistency to it. And then it was like a three paint process because he then went in with a dark color, like a dark graphite, and then hit it with this sort of metallic silver, dry brushed it with metallic silver over the top. And then the whole thing was lacquered with a tint. So
Mm.
depending on the set, some of the tints were warmer, some of them were cooler, just to give it a little bit of an edge on the silvers. And then, depending
Gorgeous.
on how they were going to light it. But it was tricky to figure it out. And then all the floors, they were all actually custom designed in the computer and printed.
Oh, like the
It
this.
was all, it was all, yeah. So it was all vinyl that was designed because again, you can't really the more you study, the more you figure out that a lot of those floors go contrary to the perspective.
Right.
So like again, and you didn't really see it in the film, but actually the rake of the floor in the waiting room is quite dramatic. You really are walking uphill when you go from one corner to the other. But the pattern on the floor sort of goes the other way. So you get this really weird reverse perspective. which you drive yourself mad trying to actually mark it out.
Yeah, I
Um,
was like, oh man. And then if
so
you
we,
mess
so
up
we,
one,
so
it's
we,
like
yeah, it's a head scrambler, and of course we had loads of these sets, and we really decided to play around with it and push the limits of what we could do. So you could model it and do apply the flaws and see what they were doing in the computer to see how the perspectives worked and how you could make it fit the shapes nicely, which
I
we did.
did
And my graphics team, Lisa, my graphic designer, Lisa Williams, she did a great job in sort of
fantastic.
fronting that all up, which was a bit of a nightmare for her because getting those vinyls printed into the build schedules and getting them in. And then they were all hand finished. So painters then went back in and aged them, and we cut out individual tiles. So some of them were missing, and there's a lot of work to get it not looking like they were printed.
It doesn't look like it's printed at all to me. I mean,
No,
it's
no, which was the print obviously had a grain and a hand finished quality to it, and then the
I'm
painters would age it.
I didn't notice until just now that that's mirror on the floor, right?
Yes, I use lots of mirror actually. It's great fun mirror with sets like that. You can really go to town because no one has a clue what's going on anyway. So you stick another piece
No.
of mirror in, and it would regularly, as the guys are building, and we would be, you know, getting close to the finish. I'd be like, oh, it's a shame we couldn't do that bit. Hey, let's stick an 8 foot piece of mirror there, and suddenly you had another load of
We're,
set.
we're looking at a picture of like a hallway with the doors are askew, and
Yeah,
then the stairs come down awkwardly, and they come into a mirror,
yeah.
which I honestly not until just now thought it was just painted like that, and now I'm seeing that it's a mirror. So it's
Yeah, and if you caught it from certain angles, it did look like it went off down to infinity because
wow.
it this staircase sort of wrapped around it. And I have a feeling, is that one? I think there might be one to the right under the archway as well. I think that's actually a mirror reflecting another part of the set back.
Oh, yeah. Wow. I mean, and again, just to go back to that wall texture, I've seen wall texture go very wrong, and even
Mm,
in this photo of the set, like not really lit, it still
mm.
looks fantastic. I mean, that's a
Yeah.
hell of a process, but it works. It's
No, they
gorgeous.
did a great job. And then once the plasterers, there was like 3 or 4 plasterers that knew the process well. And it was like, that was their job then basically to just roll that out across all the sets. But no, this is I think this is one of my shots just before it was lit or anything else. But as you say, it really held up. It was good.
Yeah,
And it was, Harris, the DOP, did a great job of lighting all that because the
yeah,
silvers were kind of deliberately there to reflect all the colored light and all that world of things. So you could really change the mood of it all quite quickly.
it's beautiful.